What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're getting into my final January bracketology, the 31st, the final day of January. Crazy. It's gone by this fast, but a crazy weekend of college basketball. So let's get into the bracketology predictions. Starting out, let's look at the bracket watch. Top overall seed right now, Purdue is very stretched out after that Alabama loss to Oklahoma. Now I think that they're clearly the number one seed. First team out, Texas A&M. I mean, Texas A&M is playing really good, fighting their way into the field after a struggling start, just playing like a good team in the SEC right now, a team to watch out for. And then the last team in, as I mentioned, Oklahoma beat Alabama by a lot as well. I think they scored like 90 points or somewhere in the 90s against Alabama. Crazy win for Oklahoma. You see that explosiveness that they have in that matchup against Bama. So that was a big-time win from Oklahoma. So let's look at the bubble of the last four byes. We have Boise State, Maryland, Memphis, and then West Virginia. Last round, we have Pittsburgh, Penn State, Kentucky, and Oklahoma. First four out, we have Texas A&M, Nevada, Oklahoma State, and then Wisconsin. And then the next four out, Arizona State, Ohio State, Seton Hall, and Utah State. As you see, a lot of teams slipping here. Wisconsin, Arizona State, Ohio State. Usually teams that you'd expect to be in the field right now, but have slipped. Teams starting to get back up in that Seton Hall, Utah State, some of those teams. But anyway, let's look at the bracket here. Starting out with the first four matchups here, Penn State is going to be new to the field at an 11th seed. Kentucky falls down into the play after losing to Kansas. Oklahoma is obviously new to the field there, and then UT Martin new to the field at a 16. In the South region, though, let's start out here. We have Purdue as the number one overall seed. Auburn falling to 8 after taking a crushing blow to West Virginia in a tight loss. USC playing really good basketball in the Pac-12 right now, coming up to a 9. We have Xavier dropping down to a 4 seed after getting really a bad loss to Creighton. Creighton really just out-physicaled Xavier in that game and just came up with a big-time win. And then St. Louis new to the field at a 13. And then St. Mary's. I was actually at the BYU versus St. Mary's game. And BYU, I'm a BYU fan. BYU almost beat St. Mary's, but St. Mary's, just like Gonzaga did against BYU, had a buzzer, well, like a last-second shot to win it for St. Mary's. And it was just heartbreaking for all the BYU fans there. Just another tough loss for our team. Now at this point, we're going to have to go through the whole West Coast Conference tournament to make the postseason, which we potentially could do. It's not out of question, but anyway, yeah, St. Mary's saw them in action. They had a really good defense in that one, but I mean, yeah, I do think St. Mary's is still a good team. Kansas State going to be jumping up to a 3 seed there after really taking it to Florida, and then we have Southern Illinois dropping down to a 14. Miami going to be dropping down to a 7. New Mexico falling to a 10, and then Vermont jumping up to a 15. In the Midwest region, as I mentioned, Alabama losing to Oklahoma. That's a bad loss for the Bama. I've been picking Alabama to win the championship over the past few ones, so hopefully they can continue it up. Hopefully they can rebound. That's what I meant. But Northwestern playing really good basketball in the Big Ten right now, jumping up to a 9. Indiana going to be jumping up to a 5, as well as Charleston falls to a 12 seed. USSB jumping up to a 13 seed, and then we have San Diego State jumping up to a 6, and West Virginia jumping up to 11, as I mentioned, beating Auburn this weekend. We have Creighton, also, as I mentioned, beating Xavier, jumping up to a 7 seed, and then Arkansas, after taking a tough loss to Baylor, had that game in the first half, but just couldn't finish it, loses to Baylor, and they're going to be dropping down to a 10. In the West region here, Houston barely surviving against Cincinnati. I'm not sold on Houston right now, but they're the number one seed in the West. And then we have Milwaukee new to the field at a 16. Illinois going to be jumping it to a 5, as well as Liberty jumping it to a 12 seed. Utah Valley going to be new to the field at a 13 seed. And then we have Rutgers falling to a 6, as well as Memphis falling to an 11 seed. Marquette jumping it to a 3. At this point, the highest Big East seeding, which is crazy. Don't usually see that from a team like Marquette, but playing good. And then Michigan State falling to a 7 seed. After losing to, I believe it was, I'm not sure who it was, but Indiana maybe? Indiana or Illinois, I think. No, Illinois beat Wisconsin. My bad. Okay, anyway, in the East region here, we have Tennessee at the number 1 overall seed there. the 16 seed MD Eastern Shore coming up, and then Clemson's going to be falling to an 8 seed. We have Florida Atlantic falling to a 9. Iowa State going to be dropping down to a 4 seed. They had a rough weekend, man. Lost, just got pummeled by Missouri in the Big 12 SEC Challenge matchup and just did not play good. And then they lose to, who was it? Why can't I think of them right now? Texas Tech. They lost to Texas Tech, a crushing blow. That team was the worst in the Big 12. They had not won a single game yet. So that's tough for Iowa State to swallow that pill, but they're going to be dropping down to a 4 here. Still, I believe in them as a team. Then we have new to the field 13 as Louisiana. We have Furman new to the field at a 14 seed, and Missouri coming up to a 7. So that was a little bit of a longer breakdown here, but a lot of crazy stuff happened here to break down. So anyway, let's look at the bracket here. Starting out with the first 4 games. Pittsburgh versus Penn State. I do think that Penn State will be able to win that one. And then SE Louisiana, I think, can handle their business against FDU. Southern's already marked there, but I did pick them. I didn't mean to do that. And then a really good matchup between Kentucky and Oklahoma. I just think that Kentucky is slightly the better team, more talent. Although if you see Oklahoma, they could be a dangerous team as we saw against Alabama. All right, anyway, guys, let's get into the bracket here. Starting out with this matchup between Purdue and SC Louisiana. I think Purdue can win that one. Good game between Auburn and USC. I mean, Auburn's a really good team, but USC is the hotter team right now. I think that they could come up with a win. Duke against Oral Roberts. I'm going with an upset. Oral Roberts is a really good 12-seed, a team you should watch out for if they do end up making the tournament. And Duke, I think, is prone to an upset right now, just not playing like classic Duke. So I think that Oral Roberts can win that one. And then St. Louis, I think, can pull off an upset over Xavier. Xavier, I mean, they're a good 4-seed, but a lot of times 4 seeds go down, and St. Louis is a good enough 13 seed of the A10. I think that they're a good team, and I think that they could beat Xavier there. And Xavier, you see, they just did not look good against Creighton at all in their last matchup. Then we have St. Mary's versus Penn State. I'm going... Ooh... Do I do it? You know what? I'm going to go with the upset here. St. Mary's, no disrespect to them. They played well against BYU, but Penn State right now, coming off the first 4 game, usually a first 4 team wins in the tournament. I think that they're the one to do it, or maybe the other one does it. I'm not sure right now, but Penn State, I think, can pull off the win over St. Mary's. So an upset region here. We have Kansas State beating Southern Illinois. And then I'm going to go with a 10-7 upset here. New Mexico over Miami. Miami's not playing great right now. New Mexico's a good 10 seed, so I'm going to go with the upset. And then UCLA, I think, could beat Vermont. All right, down here we have Tennessee against MD Eastern Shore. I'm going with Tennessee. Florida Atlantic, I think, can pull off the slight 9-8 upset there over Clemson. And then I'm going to go through 12-5 upset again here. Kent State pulling off the win over UConn. Now, I'm not a big fan of Kent State as a 12 seed, but UConn, definitely not a big fan of them. I think that they could definitely be a first-round exit. They're not playing good right now, and I think that Kent State can do it. And then I'm going to go with Iowa State to pull off the win over Louisiana despite their struggles. Providence, I do think, can handle their business against Kentucky there, and then Virginia beating Furman. Virginia survived last night against Rutgers, by the way. A really good matchup here, 7-10. I like both these teams, but I think that Missouri is slightly the better team there. I think they'll win that. And then Texas, I think, could beat Eastern Washington. All right, let's go over here. We have Alabama beating Southern there to advance on. And then Northwestern, I think, could pull off a 9-8 upset over North Carolina. Indiana, I think, could beat Charleston. Baylor, I think, could beat USSB. I'm going to go with the 11-6 upset here. Let's do it. Go with West Virginia. They looked very impressive against Auburn. Was able to hold on and win a very good team. And San Diego State, very solid 6 seed, but I just don't think it's going to be enough against West Virginia. Gonzaga, I do think could beat Colgate. I'm going to go with Creighton over Arkansas, and then Kansas, I think, could beat Siena. All right, let's go over here. We have Houston against Milwaukee. I'm going to have to go with Houston there. And then NC State, I think, can hold off Iowa. Illinois, I think, could beat Liberty, as well as TCU beating Utah Valley. Rutgers against Memphis. I'm going to go with the 6-seeded Rutgers, although Memphis is a scary upset candidate there. And then Marquette, I think, beat Princeton. Michigan State, I do think will be able to handle their business against Boise State, and then Arizona, I think, will beat UNC Asheville. So that is a full-on chalk region there. Now, that normally doesn't happen, but it's just how this region's shaped up, in my opinion. No upsets, I think, will happen in the first round, at least. All right, so let's go here for a spot in the Sweet 16. I do think Purdue will be able to beat USC, and then we have a matchup between a 12 and a 13 seed. I do think Oral Roberts is the better team, and they're going to advance to the Sweet 16 for the second time in 3 years if this happens. And then Penn State against Kansas State. I do think Kansas State can win that one. And UCLA, I do think that they could be prone to an upset, but I don't think New Mexico is the candidate to do that there, so I'm going to go with UCLA. All right, down here we have Tennessee versus Florida Atlantic. I'm going with Tennessee after they look very good against Texas. Iowa State versus Kent State. I'm going with the 4 seed there. And then Providence against Virginia. You know, why not? Let's do it. I had Virginia in the Final Four, I believe, last time. But let's go with the upset here. Let's flip it up. Providence is a good 6 seed and have a little bit of fun there with Providence advancing. And then I do think that Texas, although it pains me, Missouri, I think it's a very good 7 seed. I don't think that Texas, they're playing good right now. I don't think that they'll be upset by Missouri. All right, over here we have Alabama beating Northwestern, and then we have Baylor pulling off the win over Indiana. And I'm going to go with a huge upset here. Let's go with West Virginia beating Gonzaga. Not a huge fan of Gonzaga here. So let's go with another 3 seed going down. West Virginia, good. 11th seed. And then let's go with a 7/10 upset. Another upset. Creighton pulling off the win. Played very good against Xavier. Kansas did beat Kentucky, but not by too much. Kentucky's a good team, but still, I think that Creighton can pull off the win. I really do like the Blue Jays in that matchup. All right, down here, Houston, I think, could beat NC State, although I think that they, with the right 8 seed, could lose. Don't think the 8 and 9 seed. Don't think it's NC State there. TCU, I think, could beat Illinois. I'm going to go with the 3 seed Marquette to beat Rutgers, and then Arizona, I think, could beat Michigan State. So, again, all chalk in this region. That's very unlikely to happen, but that's just how I see it playing out. All right, so let's go to the Sweet 16 here, starting out with Purdue against Oral Roberts. Unfortunately, I don't see Oral Roberts pulling off a massive upset. I'm going with Purdue. Kansas State against UCLA. Let's go with the 3-seeded Kansas State to pull off the win over UCLA. Tennessee over Iowa State. I really do like Iowa State, but just not playing good right now. I'm going to have to go with Tennessee. They blew like a 23-point lead, by the way, last night. Just bad loss for Iowa State. And then Texas, I do think, can prevail against Providence down there. So then over here we have Alabama pulling off the win over Baylor. And then West Virginia against Creighton, a weird, wonky matchup here. I'm going to go with the 11 seed West Virginia beating Creighton. So we have an 11 seed in the Sweets in the Elite Eight. Why not have some fun with this and go with West Virginia? All right, Houston against TCU. I'm going to go with a 4-1 upset, so I do believe that's the first 1 seed to go down. Yes, TCU, I think, could beat Houston. I know they lost to Mississippi State last game, but we're really injured up in that game. A healthy TCU team, I think, can pull off the win. A battle of 2 Texas teams. I'm just not a big fan of Houston right now. And then Arizona, I do think, can beat Marquette to advance on. So for a spot in the Final Four, we have Purdue against Kansas State. Let's give Purdue some love. I have kept them out of the Final Four for the past few bracketologies, but they're a really good team. They deserve it. I'm going to give it to them to advance to the Final Four. Tennessee against Texas. These two just met in their last game on Saturday. Let's flip it up. I think Texas would learn from that loss if these two played right now. And I'm going to go with Texas. Let's go with a 2-seed upset for Texas. And then Alabama versus West Virginia. I'm sorry, I just do not see an 11 seed in West Virginia beating Alabama. I know Alabama looked bad against Oklahoma. I still believe in them. I think that they're a Final Four caliber team. And then Arizona against TCU. I'm sorry, TCU, but Arizona, I think, is the better team. All right, so with all that chaos, we do have some top teams, though, in this championship game, we have the number 1 seed Purdue, number 1 seed Alabama. We have a 2 seed in Arizona and a 2 seeded Texas. All right, so 4 spot in the national championship game. We have Purdue. We have Texas. Let's go with the Boilermakers of Purdue to advance to the championship. And then Alabama versus Arizona. I'm going to go with a 2-over-1 upset here. I'm going with Arizona, my last year's championship pick. I still believe in this Arizona team. I know they've been a little bit iffy at times this season, but I do think that they have what it takes to win in March Madness and learn from last year. So for the national championship, we have Purdue, we have Arizona, 2 top teams. I do believe actually in my last bracket, it was 3-seeded Purdue and 1-seed Arizona in the national championship game. Let's flip it up. I picked Arizona last season. Let's go with Purdue, the number 1 overall seed, playing really good basketball right now. I think that they can get the job done. So anyway, guys, thank you all for watching this video today. Hopefully y'all enjoyed the content. A little bit of a longer bracketology, but a lot of crazy stuff happened, a lot of stuff to talk about. So anyway, guys, comment down below your predictions. And anyway, peace.